Welcome to Invested Souls, the podcast where real estate expertise meets relationship growth.
And we're your hosts, the Flanagans. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jamie. This podcast is your chance to learn from our experiences and follow in our footsteps. Whether you're an entrepreneur, investor, or real estate professional, we've got the insights and strategies to help you elevate your wealth and achieve financial freedom.
But it's not just all about real estate. We believe that thriving in life means nurturing the relationships that matter most.
That's right. We'll be talking about how to balance your personal and professional life so you can create a fulfilling and prosperous future.
So join us on Invested Souls and let's grow together in wealth, relationships, and success.
Ready to elevate your life? Let's get started. Welcome to Invested Souls. All right, everybody, welcome back. I have Brendan Davis today on Invested Souls, and I'm Jamie Flanagan, your host. And Brendan is here, and he is actually super involved in short-term rental market. So Brendan, I would love to just hear a little bit about your story, your background, and then kind of what you're doing today.
Yeah, so I actually, for most of my adult career, have a background in law enforcement. So I started that back in 2013. Did a wide variety of stuff, including training new officers. But I was looking for honestly got into real estate just as a way to supplement my income. Just got my real estate license, started selling, working with buyers and sellers. And kind of when I did that, I ended up meeting some people that were involved in real estate investing. So it kind of shifted my focus. So we ended up buying a long-term rental really during like the prime peak of the market and started rehab work on it. By the time we got done with that, we kind of realized we did an analysis and it was like, okay, it would make more sense to offload this property. So we turned it into a flip, got rid of it really quick, made a great profit off of it. It was yeah. Those deals were, yeah, it was in Tennessee. Yeah, okay. Those deals are hard to come by these days.
Yeah.
I think we got into it for a total of 100,000, sold it for like maybe 190.
Nice.
So yeah, like can't find those anymore. It seems like they're hard. At least
property for 100,000 anymore.
Yeah, so we decided, okay, let's reinvest these profits into the short-term rental market. One of the things that was a rule at the brokerage I was at the time was they didn't want you to manage your own property. So they had their own property management division and they charged you like 2%. So it was really, that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
So I had approached them. I was like, hey, I've got this, I'm looking at buying a short-term rental. I've kind of figured out how to manage it through honestly a bunch of YouTube and everything else. Because that was during like the COVID era, so there was a lot of like buzz around the short-term rental market in the industry.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell victim of all that. Was watching all of it, and so when I approached the brokerage about it, like, well, we don't know how to do that. It's like outside of our wheelhouse. So I was like, well, I feel pretty confident in doing it on my own. So they had the idea that we would open up a short-term rental management branch together. But it ended up not working out. Our visions weren't really aligned. So I ended up, having to I ended up leaving the brokerage and.
Was that like a boutique broker? I'm so sorry. I'm going to edit this out, but my dog is grabbed a marker right next to me.
Oh, you're good.
So sorry. I'm like texting my husband, like, actually, I won't even edit this out. Like, can you come get the dog?
Is it like a golden retriever or something?
No, he's a little French bulldog, but he grabbed a whiteboard eraser marker and like took it in the corner of the room. I was like, he like knew.
I've got a golden retriever and he grabs anything he can give it. So.
Oh my gosh, so sorry.
But yeah, it was a boutique brokerage.
Okay. And so now you're still licensed and you're at what brokerage, or if you mind sharing?
Yeah, I'm with Epique right now, but I opened up a whole separate entity and everything on my own, so it's completely unaffiliated with any real estate brokerages.
Okay. So now you're managing short-term rentals for other people as well as your own.
Yeah, we're actively trying to buy, and it's tough to find exactly what I'm looking for at the right price right now. So yeah, we manage a portfolio of a little over 70 units right now.
Nice. Did you have like a coach that helped you connect or like learn how to host, co-host?
No,
You just all self-taught.
all self-taught. Yeah, we did all the online training. I guess I could. It was free. Watched all the videos, and I think we ended up getting our first one. We opened up the firm and everything because Tennessee regulates short-term rental management. So as soon as we went through that process, we had somebody maybe a month and a half later that we got a management contract on, and we still have that property. So it's been almost about 3 years ago. So it went really well, and we just started growing from there. And at the beginning of last year, we saw a really big increase in inventory. We just started growing super quick.
That's awesome. So you co-host with the owner. So for people who are listening right now, I'll actually tag a few people that are in your market just to get you some exposure too. And so if somebody were to buy, let's say that I'm in Nebraska, somebody buys a property in Florida or in Tennessee, you guys would then co-manage with them. They create their own profile on Airbnb, or
so we have our own Airbnb profile. So it's actually really hands off for them. We end up controlling pretty much everything.
Okay.
And yeah, they end up getting a direct deposit every month.
Nice. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely connect you with some people. So what are this is probably not what was in the questions. I'm going to go derailed. What's your favorite property to manage? Do you have a fun one? We could even put them in the comments, if you want.
Yeah, I've got a few. I've got a few of them that are definitely some of my favorites to stand out, all for different reasons. Some of them that are my favorites, may not be the top performers or whatever, but there's just some things that I really love about them. There's one of the condos there's two condos. There's one that right in Pigeon Forge and one in Gatlinburg. And both of those, on the decks, you have a view of either the Pigeon Forge strip or right downtown Gatlinburg. And I think that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And then some of the cabins are just in really, really good locations too, that are super convenient, or they're just designed really well, really homey. Yeah, I can definitely shoot the links over to you.
Yeah, do. We'll put it in the show notes. We went to Gatlinburg, probably 5 years ago. It was one of our favorite trips. It's such a cool drive in there. So it's the whole experience. I mean, you can fly in, I know too, but we drove from Nebraska. So it was you go through, you get the full Smoky Mountain experience, which was, I don't know, it was neat. And it was literally one of our favorite trips that we've ever gone on.
Yeah, it's such a great area.
Yeah.
There's obviously a crazy amount of short-term rentals over there, but there's so many travelers too.
So what are the restrictions around short-term? If somebody were to buy a property, they start shopping for a property in Gatlinburg, what would you say is some advice that you could give them? Obviously connect with you, but what would be some advice that you could give them to help make it a success?
Number one would be proximity. That's huge. There's so many people that end up buying it. Even if a property is a little bit further out, it can still do okay. But proximity is the number one thing, because as someone like me who is currently looking to invest, proximity is my top thing. Even if I see something oh, that's an awesome property, but it's 30 minutes outside of all the main attractions, I'm not even going to consider it personally. But yeah, proximity is definitely, you want to be right in the middle of all the action. And I just wrapped up a case study actually about, the properties that were performing really good in terms of they have higher than average ADR and higher than average occupancy. And I was okay, what's making these tick? The overwhelming majority of it was proximity based. There were some of them that just really were nice properties, but they weren't unique. They weren't special at all, but they were still doing really well because they were right in the middle of all the action.
Yeah.
And then number two would just be uniqueness. There's and I can probably send you to a list of different things to look for as well. But views are a really big deal. That's another thing. I want proximity and views. So people want to go somewhere for the mountain views. So that's a must have on my list. And outdoor spaces are really big too. People are really into the outdoor spaces. And that's one of the things that a lot of the amenities like that, like fire pits and hot tubs and stuff like that, people filter when they're searching for a short-term rental, they actually filter that. So if you don't have any of those amenities, you're not showing up in a lot of the searches.
Yeah, it's crazy. I work in the Colorado market a lot, and same thing. If you buy a ski house, and the number one amenity to search for is hot tub. But I also look when we're buying, It's like, can I find something without a hot tub and add one that's already on an Airbnb? Because the reason it's not performing, it's like a really easy switch. Like, add a hot tub and this will start getting booked way more. So it sounds like that's comparable there too.
It is, and even like being in different markets now, like, looking into the Florida market, and we're in the Nashville, Tennessee market, a lot of the principles really still apply. I feel like in all the other markets, you have different drivers and stuff to each market, but people are still looking for, an experience more than a bed to sleep in.
Right. Totally. Have you had any of your clients add like, I don't know if this is a thing there, but like bikes or like kayaks or anything like that, or is it more
it's not. There's some locations where it might work at, but for the most part it wouldn't. Like, a lot of them are like really steep mountain roads and stuff like that, and
kayaks in Florida probably aren't good with
probably wouldn't be.
Okay, so do you have like a team, or is it just you that's running all of your
I've got a pretty decent team.
Okay.
I've got a lot of cleaning crews. I've got a person named Jack Ingram, and he's our owner success manager. So he's actually been in the industry for a little over 10 years, and he's really great with interacting with the owners and stuff, and making sure they have everything they need. He owns several properties himself, so he's really in tune with the reality of owning and being on the management side, with him having a lot of experience. So he really does a good job of setting the owner up for realistic expectations, and he lives there in the market. So he's really great. And then we've got some quality control people and guest communication and marketing.
Oh, awesome. So do you guys use like different platforms to run numbers, like the AirDNA or any of those platforms, or are you more, because your market knowledge, you're setting the prices based on those?
So when I set the prices, I do a combination of both. So I build out a comp set. So if I'm onboarding a new property, I will go in. I use Price Labs, and I'll go in, and I've got like 5 or 6 different market dashboards, and I've got them narrowed down to the location. And each, like from the Smoky Mountains, I've got several of them based off Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, Gatlinburg, and it's such a big area. I've got some in Wares Valley. So based off the proximity, I'll find, 15, 20 comparable properties.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will go on there and just be like, okay, I want the market 3 bedrooms. So I really narrow it down based off amenities, stuff like that. If a property is, really over the top, super nice, I'm going to make sure that it's being priced. I'm going to make sure I select comps that are comparable to that.
Right.
So I make sure my pricing is right in line with the market. Because that's one of the biggest mistakes I see is there's so many people that are like, I'll never rent my property for less than X amount, when like their property just kind of average and mediocre, and their comps are like $200 a night less, and they're like, I don't have any bookings, I don't know what's going on. They're like, the market's terrible. I'm just like, no, your price is kind of out of control. Like, nobody's going to pay that much.
And you have to, like, there's a trick with Airbnb, right? You got to get the good reviews before you can get the high prices. So I totally feel like when I don't co-host or anything like that, but I do help people buy short-term rentals. And I'm like, you have to almost like buy your reviews, and not buy them, but you price accordingly, get your first 3 guests to leave a raving review, and then your prices will go up, and you build a rapport on Airbnb, and Airbnb promotes your property, and there's all these little algorithms, just like Facebook. Airbnb is its own algorithm.
Yeah, I always like to start out a little bit lower just to get some action going. Because if you start a property out really on the real high end and it doesn't get any bookings, it doesn't get a lot of clicks and stuff, it just gets lost in the very back page. So even if it's a nicer property, I'll start at a little on the lower end, not super low, until I start getting just click, click, click. And then, that property starts getting a ton of bookings, then we start going up.
Totally. Yeah. So I was going to ask you something around that. Oh, so when you take on a new property, do you usually have people who have tried managing it on their own and haven't had a lot of success? Or are you kind of just from the very beginning, they're coming to you and you get to like launch the property the right way?
I get a mix of everything. I get some of them that I've had several of them that were doing it on their own and negative cash flow and crazy every month. And then I get some of them that were from like one of them we're taking on is from another property management company over there. It did like 65,000 gross last year. We've got 6 of them we manage in that same neighborhood, and all of them did over 100, with most of them doing around 120 to 130. So we get stuff like that too. They've just been like really poor revenue management from the property management company that had it before, and they end up coming over to us. And then we do get we get a lot of referrals from real estate agents and stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. So you notice, it sounds like based on that, the numbers, when somebody hires you, they're actually could go from negative cash flow on their own. And even with your fees, they're actually going to be oftentimes in a positive cash flow, and their hands off.
Oftentimes. And it depends on the way they buy. I've had some phone calls where it's, I had 2 not too long ago. They were like, hey, I know I'm not going to make any money. I feel like you can control how much I'm losing every month. But it was the person was in a position to where if they sold, they were going to lose. They were, upside down. They're going to lose a crazy amount of money if they sold it, but they were losing a ton of money every month. They just bought at the wrong time, way too high. And so I do get stuff like that, but I do have some people that are definitely weren't cash flowing at all that are now, even with our fees.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a fascinating thing. And tax benefits, right? So like some people buy a short-term rental because you can depreciate. And so they actually don't need to cash flow, but they need to be hands off, and they get benefits from the tax side of things. So it's like everyone's goals are so different as well. Whereas lots of people do buy Airbnbs to cash flow, but not everybody. Or to use it. Do you have a lot of people who use their own property? Sorry.
We do. And one of the things that we do at the beginning of the year, I've got one more today actually after this, and then we should be wrapped up for the year. But we'll do just like a 2025 goal meeting, and kind of get to talk with the owners, like find out, okay, like, hey, no, I'm not trying to be super nosy, but what's the financial situation here? Like, what's your mortgage like? Just try to figure out, what their particular situation is. And if some people buy the properties just because they want to use it a lot. If it makes them a little bit of money, cool. If it doesn't, they don't really care. Some people bought it just to make money, and they have to be cash flowing every month. So I kind of try to get an idea of where they're at, what their financial situation is, and what we need. Sometimes I get people that are like, I've been making 60 and I want to make 100, so I'm like, perfect. And I've already got a list built out of the properties similar to theirs that are making 100. I'm like, okay, well, here's what the $100,000 a year there are some properties are like, and they're like, mine don't look anything like that. I'm like, so
time to upgrade.
Yeah. So, and I've just started working with a designer and contractor. She just finished up a big rehab for us. Not a big rehab, but more of a pretty big detailed refresh. Similar situation. So whenever, we do have those conversations like, well, I want to get up here. Okay, well, she's going to go out there, design everything, refix everything. We'll get new photos, and, they should get us pretty close. Or, I had one of the conversations, he was like, my mortgage is this, I need to make this every month. He's like, what do you think we should do? I'm like, you should probably sell it. Like, that's the reality. It's just, even with any renovations and stuff like that, it was pretty much at the ceiling of what it could potentially perform at. So
yeah.
But yeah, we do that at the beginning of every year just to see what everybody's situation's like and how we can, meet those goals. And then we're going to do one again in summer, just kind of see where we're at in terms of, okay, are we getting close to achieving that? Do we need to make any adjustments here? And do we need, again, or maybe do if we didn't do renovations and it was presented to him, maybe he's like, hey, it could be a wake up call. Like, hey, we really need to make these renovations,
Yeah, totally. So when you said refresh, is that you're saying like paint and furniture, just furniture?
Yeah. And a lot of times just amenities, like, there's some cabins that just basically you walk inside, there's beds, a couch, some TVs, a hot tub, maybe a pool table, and that's it. And then right down the road, you've got the cabin that's got really, just stunning decor. It's got an arcade game, hot tub, a pool table. It's got an amazing deck with a nice fire pit. Just pretty much anything you could think of inside of it. So it's like, this is your competition over here. So, they're driving all the bookings while you're over here, just getting what's left over.
Totally.
So a lot of it ends up being that, and I like to try to leverage the amenities. So it's one thing, I think, to just add something, right? Like adding a fire pit's great, but if you could add a fire pit somewhere that, where you've got a huge view too. I own a photography company as well, so we
nice.
mostly STR focused, but we do real estate. But I ended up doing a job at Kentucky Lake. One of the things I thought was really cool, and this property was actually phenomenal, but there was a really easy spot to put the hot tub on the back deck, which would have been where most people would put it. But he put his hot tub at a really inconvenient location that required a lot of plumbing work and everything else. But where it was, he had a panoramic view of the lake where he put that hot tub. And that's like, I feel like that's the best use of like a really prime example of that actual leverage of amenities versus just having them.
Yep. Yeah, that's powerful. Same thing, like when it's cool how you're like looking for the opportunity to increase. It's just like when you buy and sell a house or flip a house, it's like you're going to look at all the different things that you could do to it for the most. Some things are going to cost more, but the ROI is like so crazy. But being able to identify those and being like you having that eye to be able to identify opportunities is huge.
Yeah, I feel like it's important that other than just because most of the property management companies, they just take the property on and throw it out there, hope it gets hooked. So we like to be a little bit more involved in that. I'm very big on revenue management, so I think it's very important not to just set it and forget it with the pricing. Like you really have to be in there making adjustments and making sure your prices are actually in line with the market and competitive. Because if they're not, you're going to sit empty. You're not going to get any revenue. And I see that over and over again, or property management companies just drop the prices down as low as they can.
Right.
And, that's not a good strategy either. It gets you bookings, but, there could be some lost opportunity there as far as revenue goes. So it's important to us to, obviously make sure we're really controlling the revenue management side of it. And then, try to, instead of just throwing it out there, like, hey, if you're looking for more opportunities to improve, like, we can be a good resource for you and help you out with that.
Totally. And there's like a fine line too, like for us, like wear and tear on the property is big for us. So we're like, we don't necessarily need to be booked every weekend. We just want to offset, like it makes sense, like the revenue management, like really having a conversation with the owner to say, what does success look like to you? Because if you're portraying your own idea of success on the owner, and then it's the opposite of what they're looking for, it's like, that is never a win-win. And like, I love that you have that conversation, like you said, every year. So where the owner is, and financial pictures change for people. So having that meeting every year is really important.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link to your profiles in the notes here. So if anyone wants to connect with Brendan, they absolutely can and get in touch with him. What's your business called?
Magnolia Vacation Rentals.
Magnolia Vacation. I feel like I've actually seen that looking in Gatlinburg. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so I'll put that in the show notes. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, like big wins, any advice, any crazy stories?
No, I say as far as big wins, we've been consistently doing, portfolio wide around 30% above market in revenue. And when you get into like the smaller classes, like sometimes it's upwards of 40 to 60%.
Wow. That's a really impressive for revenue. So yeah, definitely get in touch with Brendan if you're looking to have your short-term rental managed in Destin, Florida, or the Smoky Mountains. How far out of Florida? I am not a Florida person. I don't know. I'm like geographically challenged when it comes to Florida. So what are some like city markets? Is it just Destin?
No, really the 38 area is our primary target over there. Like I said, that's in the beginning stages. So I'm still working on getting everything set up and operational down there. There's a lot of opportunity over there. We were talking about co-hosting or managing a condo for somebody over there. And I was just like, wow, it's surprisingly, it's not as competitive as the Smokies. So I'm used to such a high level of competition and doing things, to outperform everybody. Yeah. And I look at all the other my competition, the competing condos over there. And I'm just like, wow, if we implement the same strategies over there in the Smokies, like we're gonna, dominate the complex over here.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting professional photos, and nobody's doing, any of the stuff that I would do.
Right. Wow, that's wild. We have a friend. Actually, I know two people here in Nebraska really close to me that own property in the 38 area. So I know they have property management companies, but I'll have to ask them who they use and connect you guys.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully some listeners get in touch with you and this was impactful for those listening.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in to Invested Souls.
We hope you found our insights valuable and feel inspired to elevate your real estate and relationship goals.
If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us.
Follow us on social media for more tips and updates, or visit bradandjamieflanagan.com. And to find out more about our Real Estate Wealth Accelerator, don't hesitate to reach out.
Until next time, keep investing in your future and nurturing your relationships. Thanks for listening to Invested Souls.